Wow. Welcome everyone. Today is Wednesday, September 5th, 2018, here in the GreenFire of early September. And may everyone come gather around for a golden eternity of this hour. The electronic campfire called GreenFire here at Channel 18 PATV in Iowa City. And a big shout out to PATV in Grand Rapids, Michigan. A big shout out to PATV in Traverse City, Michigan, Grand Haven, Michigan, PATV, and any PATV wherever you are. And may that wandering star bring a familiar smile that will last a long while for this particular hour that we're going to share together. And PATV, public access television, is one of the greatest innovations of the last 100 years because it encourages creativity and freedom of speech. And for that we are eternally grateful to recognize and activate the Bill of Rights, which is the first is the freedom of speech. And the most innovative and amplified vehicle for freedom of speech is public access television. Wherever you are, please support public access television. It is a treasure and an heirloom of our entire community. And it is totally a journey of love. And the joy of the journey is in each way that we contribute in some manner to public access television. For these are our airwaves. This is public access. So for this is the activation of freedom of speech and what the Constitution is all about. And I'll be having a special letter to Senator Charles Grassley, who is heading up the Senate Judiciary Committee hearings for the some Supreme Court appointee that may be totally illegal by an illegal president who is up on a couple of felony counts as investigations as we speak. So the entire process of those judiciary hearings for Supreme Court are illegal and unjust and need to be shut down. So contact your Congress people and get out in the streets and shut down this illegal process of this Supreme Court kangaroo court nominee. And I'll be having a special letter to the not so venerable Chuck Grassley, the not venerable but venomous Chuck Grassley, later in this program. He deserves to be called on the carpet for his carpet-begging appearance before the American people. The particular note of this journey is called Upload Hope for the least of these. I was traveling down Highway 6, the 6th Strip, well known in Iowa City and Coralville, the Coralville Strip, which is about 6 miles long. Call it a miracle mile, but it's not so miracle. But it's 6 miles long, and it's long enough to get some insights as you travel along there. And I looked up and I saw this Goodwill truck in front of me, and it said Upload Hope. So I decided that would be the entire tone of this particular GreenFire hour. And in the golden eternity of this hour, let us always reflect upon the least of these. As we go along, we'll see what form and what that may take and that may create. At the beginning, we have a couple of peace walks that are going on as we speak. One began September 1st, and that is from Des Moines, Iowa to Fort Dodge, Iowa, highlighting the Dakota Access immoral, illegal pipeline across Iowa. And and the issue of eminent domain, especially for private corporations who have no qualifications for eminent domain, and a Supreme Court case that will be litigated and heard next Tuesday, which will be the 11th of September. Isn't that propitious? Or the 12th possibly, at 1111 Court Street in Des Moines, Iowa. The Iowa Supreme Court will be hearing the case brought against the Iowa Public Utilities Board about their illegal use of public domain for a private corporation, notably the Dakota Access Pipeline, which illegally shoved down the throats of Iowans. This pipeline that is bound to at least 2 or 3 aquifers. One is the Jordan Aquifer, and there's a couple other aquifers that is bound to pollute. Just by virtue of the pipelines, they pollute aquifers and poison the water, poison the well is what they're doing. So please support, go to boldiowa.org, I believe, and look up this peace walk and also what the information on this hearing. And maybe pack the courtroom next Tuesday or Wednesday in Des Moines at 1111 Court Street. Just get the time on that. I believe, well, we'll find out here in a second. It is, yeah, it's, the peace walk is going to go like all week this week. And it's September 12th, 2018 at 9 a.m. The Iowa Supreme Court, 1111 East Court in Des Moines, Iowa. Oral arguments in the landowner Iowa Sierra Club lawsuit versus the Public Utilities Board, Iowa Utilities Board, regarding the Dakota Access Pipeline. And we the people shall be heard, and we the people shall prevail. So support Wally Taylor, who is the attorney from Sierra Club, and go to boldiowa.com for further information, or sierraclub.com Iowa/Iowa.com. I believe that's Sierra Club, Iowa. And the other peace walk is from down to Kings Bay, Georgia, which is the site of a Trident nuclear submarine base, which houses or hides 6 Trident nuclear submarines. Each Trident nuclear submarine has the capacity of 5,000 to 9,000 Hiroshimas in each Trident missile. They each carry, well, each submarine has 5,000 to 9,000 capacity for 5,000 to 9,000 Hiroshimas. So if there's 6 of them, you're looking at between 30 and 50,000 Hiroshimas in that bay down there, Kings Bay Trident nuclear submarine base. And that's just a nightmare of God. It's time to shut it down. And there are 5 people who have done a plowshares action, taking the swords, turning the swords of the missiles, missiles of mass destruction, Trident nuclear submarines, into plowshares. And now people who were arrested pouring their own blood on these missiles to shut down this nightmare of nuclear holocaust, sitting there in potential at Kings Bay. And these people who were arrested doing a nonviolent civil disobedience act, the plowshares, pouring their blood on these missiles, are Elizabeth McAllister, the wife of Philip Berrigan, Steve Kelly, Carmen Trotta, Mark Colville, Martha Hennessy of the beloved Hennessy family, Claire Grady and Patrick O'Neill. And please support these Kings Bay plowshares, and just, if you can, go to Google and Google in the Kings Bay Plowshares action and support them, whether with money or with prayers or with letters of support. All the above and then some. These are the prophets of our time. They are walking in the nuclear darkness of our lives, and they're dancing. And this is a letter from one of the people, Mark Colville, titled "Rattling My Cage: Some Thoughts on His Upcoming Trial." And this is written June 5th, 2018. One of the blessings that has flowed in abundance during this time of incarceration is recollectedness, a mental and spiritual focus which I often find difficult to access with any consistency. Out there in minimum security, he's talking about minimum security in prison, which seems an increasingly apt description of the U.S. society these days, minimum security. To repeat something mentioned in a previous posting, a jail cell can be very effective at stripping away the illusions and delusions about what defines me. Now listen in, people, this is a very important letter. Much like the letter from Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King, this is the letter from Birmingham Jail of our time at this viewing. To repeat something mentioned in a previous posting, a jail cell can be very effective at stripping away the illusions and delusions about what defines me, what sustains me, and what locates me in the world. It's more than a radicalization of thought and conscience that becomes prominent and hopefully permanent when viewing the world from the perspective of the bottom. On a more fundamental level, but with time there comes the possibility of a kind of rebooting of the self. As the desert does its work on the ego, which can so easily impede the work of the Holy Spirit in a habitually recollected soul such as mine. The notion of discipleship in a culture of death gradually shifts from the realm of spiritual aspiration to a deeply felt invitation to move from here to there. As Jim Douglas explains in his classic work, Resistance and Contemplation, quote, "In contemplating prison, consequences which may be measured not so much in days and weeks as in months and years, I must confront the reality of prison not as an interlude in a white middle-class existence, but as a stage of the way of redefining my life. This is the well I have been drinking more thirstily from as the weeks have turned to months. I must remember to thank the U.S. District Court of Brunswick County for its obvious devotion to my spiritual health. Of course, the government is also doing its work this summer, and we mustn't harbor any illusions or delusions about what that means, either. Sometime during the next 45 days, while I'm eating bologna sandwiches and gazing at my radicalized, recollected navel, some parole gal in the U.S. Attorney's Office will be off earning his or her keep by meticulously following a set of instructions handed down from on high. Those instructions will amount to the government playing what is essentially the only card it will have when this case finally finds a jury. She or he will file a prepackaged, tried-and-true bundle of motions in limine, which, when rubber-stamped without any real consideration by Magistrate R. Stan Baker, will set aside the Constitution and thereby place nuclear weapons and the criminal intent to use them beyond the reach of the law. Quick disclaimer, I am not a student of the law, just a victim of its application. With all due respect to my lawyer and dear friend Matt Deloisio, I have neither the capacity nor the inclination to exchange my current headaches for his. Therefore, while my compromised position and previous experience with these legal dynamics might grant a certain authority from which to speak, the conclusions I draw should properly be subjected to whatever scrutiny or skepticism one may wish to apply. In that regard, I recommend a starting point an excellent article by John LaForge in the March 2018 issue of the Nuclear Resistor, titled "The U.S. Appeals Courts Agree, Facts About Nuclear Weapons Can Be Kept from Juries in Protest Trials." Page 10. With that said, here's my understanding. The way motions in limine are designed and the purpose for which they are normally used is to protect the accused as much as possible from any preconceived bias on the part of a jury. For example, a person on trial for armed robbery would be severely compromised if the jury was permitted to hear of a prior conviction on a similar charge. Therefore, a competent defense attorney would, as a matter of course, file a motion to limit or even exclude the presentation of any evidence alluding to his client's criminal history. What the government has been allowed to do in Plowshare's trials is to turn the protection afforded the accused by motions in limine on its head. Here the accuser gets to claim to be the party subject to potential harm if evidence of its past, current, or ongoing criminal activity is put before the jury, even if such evidence is constitutionally permissible and absolutely relevant to the defense of the accused. Excuse me for a moment while I take a few cleansing breaths and try to comprehend the absurdity of that last paragraph. Okay, never mind, where was I? Oh yes. This thus awarded the status of one exposed to harm before the jury, despite the fact that it does not stand accused of anything by the court. The government is then free to petition for the evisceration of our entire defense, keeping the jury in a perpetual state of enforced ignorance of the law, and the judge virtually always cooperates. It's basically the juridical equivalent of wild animals eating their young. Quoting again from John LaForge, "In view of the poisonous, indiscriminate, long-term, and uncontrollable effects of nuclear weapons, military and international law can be interpreted as having already prohibited them. Yet federal courts cannot tolerate any airing of these facts, which might prove that the bomb is unlawful and that the supreme law can't be allowed within a jury's earshot. To protect the bomb from legal scrutiny, federal judges have created a legal vacuum. This legal vacuum extends to forbid any challenge to the official nuclear policy of deterrence, which could fairly persuasively be argued to constitute criminal behavior in the form of a public terrorist threat. Most significant in terms of our extremely relevant motivation and intent will be the exclusion of the clear requirements found in the Geneva Conventions and Nuremberg Principles, as well as the U.S. Army, Navy, and Air Force field manuals, which speak to the right and obligation of citizens to resist the commission of war crimes by their government. In a real and terrible sense, the federal courts have become a functional mirror image of the psychopathy of the Pentagon. During the course of many months' discernment for this journey of the Kings Bay Plowshares, I can recall Steve having urged us all repeatedly to view any potential trial as a second action and to ready ourselves to approach it as such. At the motions hearing in early August, where the government's powers of coercion will be on full display, that second action will begin. In a figurative but no less truthful way, we must be prepared to take the same hammers and blood that exposed the dark terror and idolatry at Kings Bay and wield them forcefully against an equally impenetrable edifice of legalized blasphemy. Our equally impenetrable edifice, our power to do this will never be found in a judge's ruling or power or a clever legal argument, but only in our freedom to embrace this as a prophetic moment and to be embraced by whatever it is that God is trying to do. After all, the very history of this place calls us forward. The very culture of this place still bears the scars from a time when the people were similarly beholden to a diabolical industry considered absolutely essential to the nation's survival. Security and economic health blessed or ignored in its churches, and any resistance to which was mercilessly criminalized. Slavery, that is, slavery's virtue was affirmed in these same courts, especially in Georgia, by an impenetrable edifice of lies, which among its abominations exalted property rights above the Constitution and regarded an African as legally 3/5 of a person. Certainly then we can beg our ancestors' intercession that we might receive a portion of the same spirit that embraced them as they stood accused, without defense, and were preemptively convicted of teaching a sister or read or helping a brother escape. Such a gift would be far more precious. Such a gift would be far more precious than any argument a judge might allow us to make. For my part, it is the advice of Martha Hennessy's grandmother that will continue to sustain this witness, no matter where it leads or what impossibilities await. As Dorothy Day told us years ago, and I am here paraphrasing, do the work that comes to hand. Whatever the work that comes to your hand, do it joyfully and with all your heart. And if God wants it to prosper, it will. This is the work that has come to my hand. It is nothing more and nothing less than simply taking responsibility for what I know to be true. And I will continue to do it with a full heart and with all the joy I can find, rejoicing that I am no longer capable of exchanging the real walls of a prison for the minimum security that would be the reward for my silence. That is a letter from one of the plowshares, 5 or 6 plowshares of the Kings Bay Naval Submarine Base in St. Mary's, Georgia, Mark Colville. So please support this peace walk and check it out. Go to Community Nonviolence, or just look at Peace Walk to Kings Bay Trident Nuclear Subbase. Plowshares, Kings Bay Plowshares. Just Google Kings Bay Plowshares and then put walk in there and you'll get all the information you need. And please support Elizabeth McAllister, Steve Kelly, Carbon Trotta, Mark Colville, Martha Hennessy, Claire Grady, and Patrick O'Neill. I know Kathy Kelly told me on Sunday that she told me from the airplane she was already flying down there to support this walk and the Kings Bay Plowshares. So please do your part and support them as well. These are important times, people, and it's important to pay attention to what really is the journey. In that spirit, I wrote a piece connected to that about the military. It's called Upload Hope for the Least of These. So let's upload hope for the least of these. When we walk with the rainbow, we walk with a bow in our hand. After the rain, we are stalking the wild asparagus, the wild plum, and I wonder where the lions are. And I wonder where the lions are. Sometimes I wonder where the lions are. Something's got a hold on me, some kind of ecstasy, some kind of eternity got a hold on me, and I wonder where the lions are. And we've been in these antediluvian rains for 9 whole days. And we've been in these antediluvian rains for 9 whole days. Maybe more, 9 straight days of rain, night and day. And I wonder where the lions are. And we've been in these antediluvian rains for 9 whole days. And Weatherman Joe don't mention global warming. Weatherman Joe Winters, the know-nothing on purpose, with intent, with a forethought in his prognostic digitization of prestidigital fuzzy thinking. the meteorological proctologist with a thumb up his ass to see how the weather is. And this ark further wants to know when Noah is showing up. And Weatherman Joe don't mention global warming not one iota in all of this talk about the rains coming down. Weatherman Joe Winters, the know-nothing on purpose, with intent, with a forethought, in his prognostic digitization of prestidigital fuzzy thinking, the meteorological proctologist with a thumb up his ass to see how the weather is. And this ark further wants to know when Noah is showing up, as Elijah already has. And this magical thinking without a weather vane, without a brain, just keeps droning on, an Oregon rainforest drum in the Midwest, where we're used to putting thunderstorms to rest after a good soaking. But this Joe the Weatherman outlier, is nowhere near the root cellar, so he doesn't know how to survive, even though he says he scans the skies and tells lies to all the other folk about how to survive, with just another of his whiz-bang apps, because Joe comes from the planet of the apps. Yeah, Joe Winter, the weatherman, is from the planet of the apps. And I wonder where the lions are. Something's got a hold on me. Some kind of ecstasy. And when we finally set ourselves free by realizing we don't need nor want more than half the stuff capitalism is selling us, then we realize we can reach out and set our brother free. And I wonder where the lions are. Something's got a hold on me. Some kind of ecstasy. And I wonder where the lions are. Some kind of ecstasy's got a hold on me. And when we finally set ourselves free by realizing we don't need nor want more than half the stuff capitalism is selling us, then we realize we can reach out and help set our brother free. As well, when we realize that in our country, the United States, the military has become the dominant religion. Military has become the dominant religion in the United States. The Army has become the dominant religion. The Air Force has become the dominant religion. The Navy has become the dominant religion. The Marine Corps has become the dominant religion. The National Guard, too, has become the dominant religion in this here United States. And the U.S. is forcing its citizens through forced taxation to worship a false god, to worship Mammon, to worship Babylon, to worship empire, to worship the military, through taxation conscription that bleeds $1.4 trillion a year out of the U.S. citizens. Conscription in silence with the penalty of prison if they don't pay up. For the Pentagon's war crimes, blood money for war crimes are these taxes stolen from the American people. Blood money for war crimes planet-wide. While the Pentagon Pendragon pigs at the trough steal the future from our youth through debt slavery for college tuition that they can't pay off, because the Pentagon has sucked their future away, and our elderly lack adequate health care because the Pentagon don't care, because of our religion of military, and the middle class see their homes slip away because of the empire's forced religion of military, and the working class and the poor see their dreams slip away into an early grave. Because the empire has forced the religion of military and shoved it down their throats, one and all, through the brute force of the boot on the back of their neck to pay these taxes to the IRS, or they'll be have prison sentences if they don't become compliant, and they kneel at the altar of the pigs at the trough and comply. And now we upload hope. And now we upload hope. And now we upload hope. For the least of these, we become our brother's keeper, no matter what. For the least of these, we become our brother's keeper, no matter what. For the least of these, we carry that weight. We carry on, sweet survivor, for the least of these. We carry that weight. We carry on, sweet survivor, for the least of these. We don't want for ourselves. No more do we want for ourselves. No more will we worship weapons of war no more. We don't want for ourselves. We perform service for others. As Gandhi would have it, we perform service for others in a brotherhood of love, in a brotherhood of love, in a revolution of love for the least of these. Serving others is in a satyagraha truth force. Serving others in a satyagraha truth force of universal love, setting all the captives free. Serving others in a satyagraha truth force of universal love, setting all the captives free, even those dancing in the desert of our nuclear lives. Even those, all of us who are dancing in the nuclear desert of our lives. We are dancing in the nuclear desert of our lives. Serving others in a satyagraha truth force of universal love, setting all the captives free. We leave behind the planet of the apps in a universe far, far, far away. We leave behind all the gizmos of Silicon Valley and Apple and Google and Facebook and all the rest of Twitter and Tweety and Tweedledum. And we leave behind all this planet of the apps in a universe far, far, far away. We leave behind the planet of the apps in a universe far, far, far away. And upload hope. And here we upload hope in a planetary rainbow array where we carry our rainbow, stalking the wild pendulum, stalking the wild parsley, stalking the wild asparagus, stalking the wild plum. And we upload hope in a planetary rainbow array and say, this is truly a good day. Hoka hey. Because the empire has forced the religion of military and shoved it down all of our throats through brute force and the threat of prison sentences if we don't become compliant and kneel at the altar of the pigs at the trough and comply. And now we upload hope. And now we upload hope. And now we upload hope. So this is a portion of the journey of the GreenFire Golden Eternity of this hour, where we see literature, aspiration, and peace, contemplation and peace action come together in a synergy that transforms you and me, that is greater than the sum of its parts. It's the greater good of the higher union. And as mentioned, there is another portion of literature that springs to the Hope Eternal by Pablo Neruda, called Keeping Quiet. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for a second and not move our arms so much. Let's stop for a second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would not look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victories with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. If we were not so single-minded and about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. Keeping quiet, Pablo Neruda. In the spirit of this tone of this uploading hope, and for the least of these, this also is a poem of a nature that serves to a higher good. There is no border, since I understood that love is stronger. The love of East and West has no border, and feeling love makes me feel richer. This is a message to the people of the United States from an Afghan peace volunteer who was on a peace walk with Kathy Kelly from Kabul, Afghanistan, by Nimat Atullah Ahangosh, Afghan peace volunteer. The world I grew up in became a monster of my lifetime. They took everything I ought to have. Take a moment of your off time to think who took my freedom, my right to education, my right to live happy. Your sons are sent here to kill and be killed. You are to hear they are the hero. Who is the hero that is not killing here? Who is the hero that is not killing here? I sense you can stop the war. I sense you can stop the war. You have no reason to believe me, but I have every reason to believe you. You stop the war, I can rebuild my home. I can color my home. I can bring love to my home. I can feel loved at home. We're all born to die. Give me the feeling that I die like a human and die like you. A message to the people of the United States. The world I grew up in became a monster of my lifetime. They took everything I ought to have. Take a moment of your off time to think who took my freedom, my right to education, my right to live happy. Your sons are sent here to kill and be killed. You are to hear that they are the hero. Who is the hero that is not killing here? Who is the hero that is not killing here? Who is the hero that is not killing here? I sense you can stop the war. You have no reason to believe me, but I have every reason to believe you. You stop the war, I can rebuild my home. I can color my home. I can bring love to my home. I can feel loved at home. We're all born to die. Give me the feeling that I die like a human and die like you. The Helmand to Kabul peace walkers display a better means of securing peace, the path of fellowship with our neighbors on this planet, of living simply so that others might simply live, and of willingness to share even partially in the human hardship and precarity others face. I hope those walking for peace and working for equality and imploring a different way forward can be heard and celebrated not only in Afghanistan, but in every country and amongst every group that has ever caused bloodshed and ruin in Afghanistan. That's the last part of a letter written by Kathy Kelly, reflections during her visit there in early June. So the early part of this letter is such. This past Friday in Afghanistan's Ghazni province, Hazara girls joined young Pashto boys to sing Afghanistan's national anthem as a welcome to Pashto men walking 400 miles from Helmand to Kabul. The walkers are calling on warring parties in Afghanistan to end the war. Most of the men making the journey are wearing sandals. At rest stops, they must tend to their torn and blistered feet, but their mission grows stronger as they walk. In Ghazni, hundreds of residents, along with religious leaders, showed remarkable readiness to embrace the courage and vision of the Helmand to Kabul Peace Walk participants. It seems like that ordinary Afghans, no matter their tribal lineages, share a profound desire to end 40 years of war. The 17-year U.S. war in Afghanistan exceeds the lifetimes of the youngsters in Ghazni who greeted the peace walkers. On June 7th, Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani declared a week-long halt to attacks against the Taliban. Spokespersons representing an undetermined number of Taliban affiliates accepted the ceasefire on June 9th, with the U.S. also agreeing to suspend attacks against Taliban fighters. Can the declared ceasefire lead to negotiations and an end to war? Given the desperate circumstances I saw during a visit to Kabul in early June, it seems clear that a lasting peace will require enabling them to provide food and water for their families. Destitution has caused numerous Afghan people to enlist in military forces, pro-government or insurgent. It's extremely difficult to earn a living wage in Afghanistan, but military and paramilitary units, the Mammon that serve Mammon, answerable to various warlords, including the U.S., pay wages which many Afghan families can't afford to dismiss. My young friends in Kabul assure me their family members who join military groups don't want to cause bloodshed, and they don't want to be killed. They simply don't have other viable options. Sounds like a lot of poor in the United States. Those are the working class and those that are in poverty status. Almost 54% of Afghan citizens live below the poverty line. 40% of U.S. citizens live below the poverty line, whether you know that or not, people. According to Afghanistan's Tolo News, and it's all about the Pentagon budget, $1.4 trillion stealing from you and the youth. According to Afghanistan's Tolo News, a coverage of a recent joint survey undertaken by the Central States Organization and international NGO, the Afghan peace volunteers, known as APV, who welcomed me as their guest last week, want to help build a more egalitarian economy that will provide basic human needs. This year, they're forging ahead and establishing worker cooperatives. During my visit, they celebrated the opening of a shoemaking cooperative. They celebrated the opening of a shoemaking cooperative, just like my name, Shoemaker. They've also devised a one-year plan for seamstresses to form a tailoring cooperative and explore possibilities for a carpentry cooperative. Once up and running, their blog explains, these worker cooperatives will pledge part of their earnings to the long-term self-reliant work of the Afghan peace volunteers. These cooperatives are really important. We can get them going here too, people, worker cooperatives. The Afghan peace volunteers find inspiration in the story of Badshah Khan, sometimes referred to as the Muslim Gandhi. After meeting Gandhi in 1919, Badshah Khan educated and organized members of the Pashtun or Pathan tribe in an area that is now a border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, steadily building a movement to rebel against the British occupation. The Kid Machigars, servants of God, refused to cooperate with the British and instead practiced self-reliance. They created their own constructive projects and persisted even when the British repression became increasingly brutal. Describing the growth of the servants' movement, Michael Nagler writes, after perpetrating a terrible massacre in 1930 in Peshawar, the British saw the ranks of the servants swell from several hundred to 80,000. They continued rejecting armed struggle, choosing instead to experiment with Gandhi's methods of nonviolent resistance. To the astonishment of onlookers, they were a key element in the eventual liberation from British rule. Badshah Khan's preferred method of transportation was walking. He trod along paths linking mountain villages and small towns, relying upon goodwill and the truth of his cause, not on weaponry for his defense. A likeness of Badshah Khan decorates the entrance to the APV Center in Kabul. Stenciled underneath is his fundamental belief: my religion is truth, love and service to God and humankind. Truth, love, and service to humankind and to the divine. I worry that in my country that we have to take these steps yet. We cannot seek security through military might. I hope those walking for peace, working for equality, and employing a different way forward can be heard and celebrated not only in Afghanistan, but these peace walkers down in Georgia, going down Plowshare Peace Walkers going to Kings Bay, Georgia, and the Dakota Access Pipeline Peace Walkers going from Des Moines to Fort Dodge, both this week during Labor Day week. And she hopes that we can find a way forward and be heard and celebrated not only in Afghanistan, but in every country amongst every group that has ever caused bloodshed and ruin in Afghanistan. I mentioned Pakistan and any other place where there's warfare going on. And that's a message from one of the prophets of our time, Kathy Kelly, who was nominated for 3 Nobel Peace Prizes and should have won at least 2 of them by now. But politics, you know, the Nobel people would be noble not to give Obama the tried and true trident nuclear sub excellence par excellence, who planned that war in Yemen, and who also sent drones to kill people at will, willy-nilly, all over the Middle East without telling anybody and picking out people he was going to kill. The Bloodmeister himself, Obama, who got that should be taken away from him, the Nobel Peace Prize, and given it to somebody who truly is noble, Kathy Kelly, and give her truly a Nobel Peace Prize walker and a stream winner. So in that sense, these are all interrelated. As you see, poetry and letters form a literature of our culture having to do with peace and justice, and for the least of these, whether it's in Afghanistan, whether it's in Pakistan, or whether it's right here in our very own country. The poor, the dispossessed, the elderly, the least of these are right in just, we can look around and see, we don't have to look too far, although the capitalist media always presents us with this land of shining happiness and everybody going out to get a Snickers bar and going to the Dairy Queen and who knows what the little kids, and how about feeding the dog 85 pounds of crap. You know, we feed and take care of dogs and animals better than we take care of people. I think there's something very wrong about that. Here's the letter that was mentioned earlier. Being that Chuck Grassley is hogging up the airwaves and public television and every other media in this United States this entire week as the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee in their illegal hearing of this illegal Supreme Court nominee by an illegal sitting president. This is a letter to Chuck on another note to bring him back down to earth. Written June 26, 2018. Dear Chuck, just a note to bring us up to date and on the same page. Recently, attention has been on immigration. Are you aware of that, Chuck? Recently, attention has been on immigration. Are you aware of that, Chuck? Let us return briefly to those thrilling days of yesteryear in the summer of 1986, when 4 sisters of St. Francis of Assisi, a college professor, Michael Sunleitner, Mennonites, Iowa farmers, myself, and others occupied your Waterloo office. We did it to protest your blood-drenched votes for death squad money to the Contras in Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Guatemala. We held our silent vigil for an entire week, but guess what, Chuck? You never spoke. Never once did you respond to us or to our petition, decrying support for the illegal, immoral, unjust Contra wars in Central America. We were members of the Committee for Human Rights in Central America from the Waterloo St. Francis Catholic Worker House. Never in the following 32 years have you recognized our voices. In your office, we said presente for the names of those dead at the hands of death squads in Central America, which our country supported financially and trained in torture techniques at the School of the Americas. In 2018, I wonder about the children and the grandchildren of the thousands missing in Central America. Could they be some of the people at our southern border calling out for sanctuary? Will you be presente for them? So this letter, it goes back 30 years, but it talks about the human rights death squads killing of people in El Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Costa Rica at times, but not Costa Rica. Nicaragua, El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. So maybe a quick belly trip here. Seeing that letters is literature as well. This forms literature, a body of the whole of we the people. Freedom of speech. Just a note to bring us up to date, freedom of the press. And on the same page, recently attention has been on immigration. Are you aware of that, Chuck? Let us return briefly to those thrilling days of yesteryear in the summer of '86 when 4 sisters of St. Francis, a UNI college professor, Mennonites, Iowa farmers, and I occupied your Waterloo office. We did it to protest your blood-drenched votes for death squad money to the Contras in Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Guatemala. We held our silent vigil for an entire week, but guess what, Chuck? You never spoke. Never once did you respond to us or our petition, decrying support for the illegal, immoral, unjust contra wars in Central America. We were members of the Community for Human Rights in Central America from the Waterloo Catholic St. Francis Worker House. Never in the following 32 years have you recognized our voices. In your office we said presente for the names of those dead at the hands of the death squads, which our country supported financially and trained at the School of the Americas. In 2018, I wonder about the children and grandchildren of the thousands missing in Central America. Could they be the same people at our southern border calling out for sanctuary? Will you be presente for them, Chuck? Sincerely, John Shoemaker. So that is literature as human rights document, and some of the prophetic voices of our times we've been sharing here today. And we will do a reprise here of uploading hope for the least of these, and we'll do a quick belly, somewhat of a quick belly here. When we walk with a rainbow, we walk with a bow in our hand. After the rain, we are stalking the wild asparagus, the wild plum, and I wonder where the lions are. Sometimes you got a hold on me. Something has got a hold, some kind of ecstasy, some kind of eternity got a hold on me, and I wonder where the lions are. And we've been in these antediluvian rains for 9 whole days, maybe more. It seems like Noah has got the ark further just around the corner. And this rain just keeps droning on in, and like an Oregon rainforest drum in the Midwest, where we're used to putting thunderstorms to rest after a good soaking. And something's got a hold on me, and I wonder where the lions are. Some kind of ecstasy. And we finally set ourselves free by realizing we don't need no more than half the stuff capitalism is selling us. Then we realize we can reach out and help set our brother free as well. When we realize that in our country the military has become the dominant religion. The Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, and National Guard have become the dominant religion of the United States. And the U.S. is forcing its citizens through forced taxation to worship a false god, to worship Mammon, to worship Babylon, to worship empire through taxation conscription that bleeds $1.4 trillion a year out of the U.S. workers and U.S. citizens. Conscription in silence with the penalty of prison if they don't pay up for the Pentagon's war crimes and pay the blood money for the war crimes planet-wide, while the Pentagon pigs at the trough steal the future from our youth through debt slavery, from college tuition they can't pay because the Pentagon has sucked their future away, and our elderly lack adequate health care because the Pentagon don't care, because of our religion of military, and the middle class see their homes slip away because of the empire's forced religion of military, and the working class and the poor see their dreams slip away into an early grave because the empire has forced the religion of military and shoved it down their throat through the brute force of prison sentences if they don't pay the taxation man, the tax man, the blood money coming to them that goes to the Pentagon, pigs at the trough. And if they don't, they'd be sent to prison. If they don't become compliant and kneel at the altar of the pigs at the trough and comply. And now we upload hope. And now we upload hope for the least of these. We become our brother's keeper. No matter what, for the least of these, we carry that weight. We carry on, sweet survivor, for the least of these. We don't want for ourselves. We perform service for others in a brotherhood of love. For the least of these, serving others in a satyagraha truth force of universal love, setting all the captives free. We leave behind the planet of the apps in a universe far away and upload hope in a planetary rainbow array and say, this is truly a holy good day. And may you have a holy good day and do something of kind blessing for the least of these. For one another we are all the least of these. Blessings, peace,